And now it says we're live.
Oh shoot, we're live.
Behave,
Hi
behave,
everybody.
behave myself. Pull myself together.
You can try that. Hi everybody, Dr. Laura Foster here. So this is one of our impromptu Soul She Says, which I love because I don't have to be super formal. I don't have to schedule this weeks in advance. I can just say, hey, I have someone really cool that I want to speak to, and have a conversation that is from the heart. I honestly couldn't think of somebody who speaks more from the heart. It's probably one of the reasons why her and I were in a room speaking together and we literally went like this. So, what I love to talk about on these is really wherever it goes, but always coming from the perspective of can we have the next level conversation? So, there's the conversation you could be having, and then there's the conversation, or rather the opposite, the conversation you're having, or the conversation you could be having. So to me, this is a person, Dr. Melissa Longo is with me here today. This is a person who I know is so willing to go into the next level conversation. In fact, it made me think about a time, Melissa, when you and I went out for dinner once, and I know I haven't fully finished introducing you, but you and I went out for dinner, and I think 3 questions in, I asked you something, which I just thought was like a normal question, and you took a step back in your seat, and then you looked at me and you said, okay, we're going there. And then you just met with me. So Dr. Melissa is a very good friend of mine. She is a colleague, another chiropractor in my life that I'm so blessed with. She's also a big mentor to me. And then we're kind of like these 2 moms that are in the trenches together because we both have 2 boys. They're about the same age. So we do this checking in with each other all the time. Is this what it's like for you? How do you feel about that? I was trying to think of how would I describe you, Melissa, and I had a few things. Number 1 is I think of you as a truth teller, as I just said, the person who's ready and willing to have the conversation and asks me some edgy questions sometimes. You are an incredibly curious human, asks great questions, probably comes from the fact that you have a podcast, you are a coach, you are regularly online, and you're also a really, really compassionate listener. I think it's one of your best traits. And I think of you as kind of like this eagle, this person who's able to kind of soar above a concept and really kind of look down this sort of broader perspective, which I think is really valuable. And you're this equal kind of part action and doing, and then feeling and being. So I couldn't think of a better person to talk about life right now specifically and just what's coming up for us. So that was a really long way of saying thank you so much for being here with me today, Melissa. I'm so happy to see you. You look incredible, by the way.
Well, thank you. The lighting is perfect right now. It's a beautiful day here in Collingwood, Ontario. My heart is so full. I feel like I'm going to want to like replay that and write it down. So when I'm having a shitty day, I can like, oh, Laura loves me. Look at all these nice things she said about me. Because
I
I think
do feel
that's
that way.
one of the things that always helps us, right? When you're having times in your life when we're not sure about our direction or anything, really, parenting, business, work, like, you know, having the people around you, your tribe is so vital to help you remember who you are.
Yeah, I
So,
know. And it's something that's been coming up a lot with my clients and coaching calls right now is trying to have a good sense of who we are. Like it's often the question that we have about ourselves, but we can't, it's more difficult for us to have a sense of who we are. Other people can look in on us and they can see these bright lights about us. And oftentimes when we're talking about gifts and the things that we bring to the world, they're so natural to us that it's hard for us to even glean what they are. It's nice to have someone mirror that back to you.
and I think we're also in a time right now where we actually have the opportunity, even in a, can I swear on this thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
We're
would
being
be
real,
weird if
right?
you
Yeah.
didn't.
We're in a bit of a fucked up time right now, right? Since March, right? And I think there's an opportunity here. I think whenever there's any kind of challenge in life, there's always like an opportunity somewhere. And how
Yeah.
are you going to rise through this? And often in rising through it or figuring out a new solution or adapting, something good comes out of it. And so I feel like right now, my hope is that there's, even though the world is in a little bit of a crazy place, that there's an opportunity here for people to re-examine their priorities and actually start asking questions about, well, how do you want to do things differently? You know, because that's how we can move forward in some new way. And for me right now, I mean, it's a school. My youngest son is going into high school. I want to keep him home. His dad's not so sure about that. His dad actually agrees, but my son has an opinion about it too. So just asking questions and looking at the opportunity to go a new direction sometimes is really, really important.
Yeah. And I feel this, everything that I'm seeing around me, of course, I'm feeling inside of me. I mean, everybody on my group knows, I moved across Canada, and the last year I, sold my practice, and I walked away from, almost 25 years of practice, and stepped in new ways. And then I got here, and it was like all this stuff was going on in the world. And all of a sudden I was like, no, 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 I was supposed to move out here, and it was supposed to look like this, and I was supposed to have this experience. And then when I got up here, I was like tits up. I honestly, it took me, I'm probably still in it, but it's taken me a long, long time with a lot of like soul-led questions to sort of get a sense of, okay, where's my feet? What's important to me? Get back to what's important, right? It's not, and also being open to what's going on. A lot of times what I just said is you have this anticipation. September is always that new season, and then it's like we hype up to it. It's like, what do I want to bring in? How do I want this to go? And it's so cyclical. Like September 1st is so cyclical, especially if you're a mom or a parent and you have this sense of like, this is how it goes, and you kind of go, oh, summer was fun, and now you buckle right down. But now there's this opportunity, especially if you dropped all the balls in your life like I did, to say like, what do I want to pick up? Like if they're on the floor, don't just scoop them up and keep running. I mean, that's how I'm feeling right now. So how does the undercurrent of your life feel right now?
It feels full of possibility, is what comes to mind. Yeah, I've really had the last few months, I mean, being in private practice, my practice was closed for a couple of months, and that gave me time to dive into a couple other areas. I do a lot of coaching and work as well. So I was busy doing that, and I was creating new things. So that was fulfilling. But as time has gone on, there's things about the old way that we used to live that I miss, but I'm also appreciating some of the slowness, some of the quiet, some of the time for introspection, some of the, and that's where we're at now. Practice is back open for the last, almost 3 months, busy, new projects on the horizon. I also, with you, I feel like September has this like, let's do it. And probably because of school and the rhythms that we've been in through as moms, there's a freshness that it feels like. The last 3 weeks have definitely been a lot of time off, and not time off from some of the other things I would do. I was in my practice still, but I had definitely a little bit more vacation time and time with my loved ones. And it was really lovely to just take a step back and realize that life still goes on. And also just to give attention and time to the things that matter. We were talking about this, my boyfriend and I, it's like, sometimes you have to take a step back and invest in one area of your life. I don't believe life is balanced. I believe that we have all these different areas of our life, our careers, our relationships with like, okay, then partner or spouse, kids, family members, girlfriends, and work, and then ourself, and then your health. You can't always do everything. At least I can't do everything 10 out of 10 all the time. And so sometimes the last 3 weeks, like it was a lot of relationship time and health and enjoying the summer. Summer in Ontario's are short. So I gave myself permission to do that. And now I'm refreshed and ready to jump back in with some changes. I don't want to go back to the hustle I was doing back in January, February. It was fun and exciting, but there's some pieces of it that were also exhausting. So I think the current of my life is this, like, I want us to look at opportunities that are ahead of us. It's been definitely very heavy at times. I'm with you, and like the weight of the world and the fear that I see in a lot of families, and my heart aches, for what a lot of kids are dealing with going back into the public school systems this fall, and the teachers, what they're dealing with, and businesses that have folded. I mean, there's been a lot of heaviness, and that does weigh on me at times, but I mean, we can't stay in that energy. We have to try to find some gratitude, some perspective, do what we can to take care of ourselves and the people around us. And change our mental energy and our focus, because otherwise it just sucks you right in. So,
well, and I think also too that for me there was a bit of reacting and responding going on towards the beginning of all of this, and now I've decided that's never really served me to be on that reaction side of things. So lately, my whole thing is, okay, how do I want to feel? What do I want to focus on? What's front and center for me? What can I create that feels aligned? And then every single time I have the opportunity, I'm like, is this for me? Or is this for me? Is this still for me? Is this no longer for me? And I mean, if you looked on the other side of these 3 things that are here, there's 20 boxes. I haven't had a single one of these boxes in my life since May. I haven't missed anything in any of them.
Mm.
That tells me something. I mean, honestly, I have lived out of a suitcase since May wearing the same 12 things. And honestly, it was not just fine, it was great. So, you know, I think that's, it's the opportunity to be able to do that. So I know that this, you know, I'll just even say it. You and I, we both have been divorced. We both have these 2 kids. I'm in a blended family of 4. And, you know, one of the things that we've really identified with, and probably half of society, is that we went again for love later on in life. Now, when I say later on in life,
I'm not that old. I'm older than I was 10 years ago last year, but
it's a relative term. As soon as
and neither are you for that matter.
I'm older than you. Okay. So let's just
a couple years.
But here's the thing. I mean, a lot of people, and I know this is important for you too, but there's 2 concepts I think you get asked a lot. One is your beautiful hair, which we can have on another segment. And number 2, she didn't, and this was before COVID.
Before COVID. This is like when I was, I don't even think I was 40 yet. It was 2015.
Amazing.
So I don't even think I was,
And then the second thing that we get asked about is, you know, finding love again. Do you get asked that? I think you do, don't you?
I do. Yeah. I've been married twice in a great relationship now, for a couple of years. I think life is what you're open to, you know, I mean, and also taking risks and being, like you said a few minutes ago, like following the feeling. Sometimes we get really caught up thinking we should do this. I should be happy. I have this all lined up in my life. I've got the house, I've got the husband, I've got the car, the trips, the whatever makes sure you think your life's supposed to make you happy. And then you achieve some of those things. At least I did at one point in my life. I'm like, all right, and now what? Like, something's still missing here. And I didn't realize that part of the things that were missing were how I was feeling in some situations. And when you take a risk to go follow that, typically life gets better. And when that's a business risk or relationship risk, I've only always found that it usually pays off in a much bigger, more positive, beautiful way than I could have ever imagined. So, but I think it's also, you know, it takes work. I think that where I'm at in my relationship now is taken a lot of effort, and it's also required some heavy, deep conversations that have been challenging. But you know, we go into those conversations with the clarity, like, we're working this out. There's no other option here. This is going to make us stronger, but it's still icky, and it's still, you know, unsettling and anxiety producing. And, you know, that's part of it. That's part of the deal, but you have to be willing to go there.
You do have to be willing to go there. And I even think, you know, one of the things about 2020 that's come up for me is this sort of courage to redefine and recreate, and just relook at every part of your life. So I know that there are a lot of women out there that are like, you know, this is that whole, hey, if we go into lockdown again, can I have a new COVID partner?
Honestly, I was very thankful at the time when things shut down that I was not in that situation where my heart broke for the women who were maybe in abusive situations. And we know that the rates of violence, you know, went up substantially, and a lot of women were affected, men too. But I was very thankful that I wasn't in a hard situation like that. Like I know a lot of people were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the other side of it. That's a silver lining, is that, when you have that incredible clarity and you just know that something is no longer for you, you can be so scared shitless. In fact, you almost always will be, because I know I sure was, you know, and I was grateful to have a job that provided some independence, and I didn't know if I could do it. I mean, I knew I could do it, but I didn't know if I could do it. I've never had to fully do it with 2 kids. And, you know, I know that one of the things that you regularly step on the platform in the chiropractic world and talk to other women about is, hey, what do you actually want for yourself? Instead of subscribing to a lot of male dominated practices, what the hell do you want for yourself? Do you want to practice out of your home? I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing, but when you got divorced and you were faced with that opportunity to, you were faced because you had to, but it was an opportunity to rebuild, recreate, do something different. tell me a little, we'll tell everybody else a little bit about what different steps did you take? Because the space you're in right now is your home, but it's also your practice.
Yeah, I'm in the reception room. It's our living space when the office is closed. So when my first husband was a chiropractor, so we had a practice together and we had our kids together. And then when that relationship changed, we remained business partners for a few years because we owned a property that our practice was in. My littlest guy was 3 at the time, so I was kind of in and out of the practice, not really building my own practice at that time. So when our marriage ended, I stepped back into practice with the little guys, and we were lucky in that we had space and time where I could just jump back in and use the same space, tables, decor, everything, and just do my own thing basically we're like independent contractors in the same office, or associates in the same office. That we did that for a couple of years, believe it or not. And then it was time to make a shift. And at that point too, I was realizing like, I love being a chiropractor. I love adjusting. I love clinical care. I love sharing truths about health and healing in the public, in my practice. And I love being a mom. And then I like being myself. So there was other roles that I had at that time that I didn't really love. I don't love managing a group of people renting space from me. I didn't love being a landlord. I didn't want to manage a whole other property. We had other professionals renting space in our practice. And it's a good business model for people if you love to do that. I realized that it wasn't my jam. So I'm like, I just want to simplify my life and be a chiropractor and a mom. So how do I do that? Well, I bought a property, this building that I'm in right now, that was zoned commercial. I renovated it extensively for 8-9 months. It was a little bit crazy, but now I have the space that my practice is in about 500 square feet. And right now it's real. People come in every day and they're like, this is awesome. The doors are open and we have this indoor outdoor space right now for the people when they're hanging out and adjusting. And then through the adjusting room is my kitchen, and the front of the house and the upstairs is for my boys and I. My boys are 14 and 18 now. So they're at a very different stage than they were 8 years ago. But at that point in time, it really freed me up because I focused on my assistant and I who worked together and being a chiropractor. And I stopped managing a lot of other people's lives, the massage therapists and the psychotherapists, whoever had space in our place. And my focus changed in that my business model changed with the smaller space and being one building. My overhead expenses went, from here to here. And that freed me up a ton to start doing other cool things that I wanted to do. My business has only grown. I mean, in the year then I went through a creative staffing change as well. So I don't have this is crazy to a lot of chiropractors, but I don't have a full-time assistant at my desk here. We do a lot of online booking, a lot of prepays, a lot of pre-scheduling of appointments. Things are very efficient in the office. I do have an amazing assistant who helps me, when no one's in here running a lot of my business, but we shifted the model. And with that shifted model, it's a simpler model and it's highly profitable. My business has only increased, every year since then. But more importantly, my level of joy and
Right.
ease has gone up substantially because I'm not doing the stuff that I don't really want to be doing. And because I had more free time, I ended up creating and producing a television show for 3 years in my town, starting one podcast and a second podcast that's heading into the 150th show next week. Kind of secret, it's not so secret. October 1st, my next podcast is launching. It's going to be super badass. I'm super excited about it. Videos, coaching, training. I mean, I get to do a lot of the things that make me really happy because I took a step back and identified the shit that I didn't want to do. And I think that's a big part of what we're connected with. It's like when you get really clear on what you really want to do in life and start taking steps with some courage towards creating that, a lot of other opportunities come your way that you had no idea were there for you, that were going to make you happy. And when you let go of the heaviness and the stuff that was dragging you down, it just lightens everything up.
It is a perspective change. And I love this story mostly because, right. I know that 90% of the people, 95% of the people that are sitting listening to this are not chiropractors, but it's the same concept. You could have done what you always did because you knew that the model where you rented the space or owned the space and you did all the stuff with all the people like I did for many years. And then at 40, I went, this is really great. I have this 4,000 square foot space. And I can't even remember, like 10 or 12 practitioners here. And we serve such an incredible community. And I was so proud of it. But you know who was the most hired? Me. You know who was doing the thing that didn't really align with me? Me. I was doing so much admin. It didn't, I actually wasn't making any more money, but that wasn't even really my impetus to change. At 40, I don't know why I waited to 40. At 40, I said, what do I actually want? How do I actually want to feel? And I kind of like this, like 2020, it was like, I don't want to be this fucking busy. I don't want to be leaking energy doing the things that no longer align with me. And it
Mm-hmm.
meant that I had to have the courage to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations with all my practitioners. You know, I basically had to kick them out because I couldn't take them with me. And I had to have the courage to take all my financial security by breaking all of my RSPs and buying a small space because that made the most sense for me. And I went down to 900 square feet. So, like you, this is, and a lot of people who aren't in the business don't recognize how different that is. It is not typical to be in a small space, especially when you're a busy clinic. But I guess the big thing is, you know, well, what would you say around the idea of how do you find courage? How do you tap into that when you know you're not where you want to be? You don't have a freaking idea of how to get where you want to go. You just know that it's not right here.
Hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about this question when you asked me because it's interesting when your friends and loved ones comment on they see things in you that you don't see. And one of my best friends says I'm fearless. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I am. I think that a little bit of fearlessness is innate in our personalities, who we are, you know, and then of course you tag on, you know, our upbringing and the stuff that happened and shaped our character. But I definitely think a lot of it's acquired. And I think that one of the ways you get better at taking risks and finding your voice and finding courage to do hard things is by doing them. And it might be something small that starts the process. It might be a little decision that you can make today, that maybe it's having an uncomfortable conversation, or maybe it's saying, I'm going to stop eating potato chips, even though I love them because it's better for my health, or I'm going to do something. If you make that one little step that seems like it's a hard step and then you succeed in it, then it gets easier to make the other ones. And in my life, every time I've gotten clear on where this voice is at, and this happened vividly with my first marriage, second marriage, practice direction, coloring my hair, there's these moments that I can remember where I just knew. I'm just like, this is where I'm going right now. And I'm so clear on it. And Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed, is amazing. I just finished reading it about a month ago. And that was one of the things that resonated with me the most about the book is like, we get so caught up in finding our courage or being brave because of what other people tell us we should do. But the real truth of it is doing your own thing and following your own voice. And it doesn't really matter, you know, what anyone else thinks or says you should do. You have to trust yourself. And so I think that's for me where it started, or it has started. And the more I've done that, the easier it gets to take other risks. I think in our 40s, it gets a lot easier too. I think that more maturity, more life experiences come our way. And I feel like most people I know in their 40s, in all relationships, I mean, I even think my female friends, they're richer, they're deeper. We can have uncomfortable conversations about this upset me. I don't know why you did this, but I'm hurt, you know, and we can move through them in a different way than I would have in my 20s or 30s. So I think it's that, and that leads into, you know, finding courage, I think comes from being surrounded by the right people, by finding your tribe and supportive friends, partners, loved ones, family, whoever those people are for you, and being really clear on who they are and being okay with honoring the fact that some people come into our lives at some points and then maybe that relationship doesn't serve us long term. It might be a friend or acquaintance. If it's a family member, it can pose additional challenges, but honoring the relationships for where they are and not letting toxicity exist in our life and checking in with yourself about how is this relationship serving you? Is it resonating with you? Does it make you feel good? If it brings you down and it makes you feel like, like this, like I want to be like this and open-hearted and loving. And if people in my life don't make me feel that way, then the relationship might stay, but my expectation of it is going to shift, you know, in what I expect, what I'm going to give, what I'm going to expect to receive. So finding your tribe, I think, is crucial professionally. Finding mentorship and coaching is tremendously valuable. I mean, anytime that I've been faced with a difficult decision or afraid of something, it's been my close friends or mentors or people outside of me that can call me on my bullshit and remind me, you know, how great I am or how strong I am, or the things that we do with people that we love too, with our kids even, right? We spin our own stories, and it takes someone outside of yourself often to give you that objective perspective, like, well, actually you're pretty awesome. And look at all the 10 things you just did this week to grow your business, or look at the courage it took to, you know, someone this morning was like, I just gave up, you know, caffeine and gluten for the last 2 weeks and I feel awesome. Like, awesome. like good, that's a hard thing to do if you love bread and and coffee. So honoring that, right? And having some people outside of your life that can see you for who you are and remind you of who you are will give you courage. And yeah, I think what I mentioned earlier, that my third thing would just be like, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
Right. And failing, be okay with failure, because failure is an opportunity to do something different. It gives you data on what
It's
you
a
need
redirection.
it's a redirection, whether it's in a relationship or a business idea. You're going to get something from that experience that's going to help you shape what you're going to do next. And if you didn't have that information, then maybe your next move would have been fallen too. So, we need to embrace failure. I remember I said that to my kids once: I hope you have lots of failures in life. And they thought I was horrible. And then I'm like, no, because when you fail, that's when you develop resilience and character. You get clear on what you want. And so be okay with it.
And you get clear on who you are, right? Like, I don't tend to have a sense of my grit from my success. I got my grit for my failures, my stumbles. I mean, I am a big fan of doing hard things. And I mean, I remember I hadn't even done a race and I decided to do an Ironman. Like, who does that?
Of course, just go for it, Laura.
The first running race I went in was a marathon. And the first triathlon I did, and I guess the reason why I do it is because I'm like, when I get to see the person that shows up when I do really freaking hard things, it teaches me something about myself, because we are so quick to tell ourselves the shit of it, aren't we? Like, we can do that, but you need to be this equal part cheerleader, right? I think that's really important. And if you can't find it in yourself, that's where you find it in your friends and mentors. But on the other hand, you also want to be your own ass kicker, right? Because there are times when we're like, we're kind of dragging our feet, or, we're staying in a place of shadow, or we're in a level of victim. I mean, there's one thing to be doing your work and being introspective, and taking the time to go inward. And then there's when we start living there. And I feel like there's this real concern right now where a lot of girlfriends, and I'm sure it's men, but I just notice it more in women, who are feeling deeply low right now, that are kind of scraping the bottom right now. And I feel that, like you, like my heart just kind of, and I have moments of this, so I get it. And so it's this part where you want to give yourself the space to be able to do the work, but then you also want to be able to tell yourself when you got to redirect yourself, when you got to kind of take yourself out of that and start to move towards something. And so what I always say is just move your feet. Do fucking anything. Say yes to anything. It doesn't even matter. It can be like a 5-day water challenge. It can be anything. It can be a shift in your job or whatever. But just, when you feel stuck, move something. It makes a difference. It really does. Because when you're sitting there in that period of like resistance, it doesn't come to you. Your energy is stagnant. So just say yes to anything.
I tell people, it's good to have a list of maybe like 10 things that help you get rerouted and grounded, or like will pull you out of a funk. It might be, because then you can have that list to look at if there's a day that you're off. So it might be, for me, I love nature. So if I'm in the forest or by the water, and I'm lucky that where I live, I can do both whenever. Even if it's some days, I'll just get down to the water for 5 minutes and I just breathe it in and feel the earth under my feet. And there's something magical about it that calms me down and gives me some perspective. So for me, it's like going to the water, getting on my bike, getting out in nature, calling a friend, just really like drinking my coffee, but like having a moment, like just slowing down a little bit. It might be reading something inspiring, listening to some music, booking a time for a lunch with a friend. Like if people have a list of things that they can turn to, of habits or tools or resources that can help them get rerouted if they're feeling low or feeling in a funk. And sometimes it's just like, go to bed early and trust tomorrow is going to be a new day. And, and certainly also on the flip side of that would be recognizing the sabotaging behaviors as well. We know that sure, a vodka soda or a glass of wine might feel perfect in the moment, but 10 of those is not going to feel good the next day.
No, I've tried that. It's not great.
It doesn't usually work. So, I know a lot of people at the beginning of COVID were drinking a lot more than usual, and that worked and then didn't work. And there was certainly some other challenges that came out of it. And I know we're going to see them now too. So I think it's helpful to have a list of behaviors that serve you, things that root you, a hug with a loved one, whatever it is for you. And then also a list of behaviors that, you might want to, but if you have this list, it's going to help you avoid this list over here.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. A couple of things that I do in addition to that, not surprising, every single thing you wrote on there is on my list. But also I find too that things like going for a swim, like in the cold lake. You know, I hate cold water, and I happen to move by a lake that is so deep, it's cold. Of course, anyone who lives here long term is like, it's great. I'm like, it's freezing. It's really cold.
It's so good for your lymphatic system, Laura, when you do
I
cold
know. I know.
Yeah, cold inversions. Like I stopped taking hot showers like a couple of years ago because once my trainer suggested I do it, I'm like, oh. And some mornings it doesn't happen, but even in the winter, like now I'm addicted because you just feel so much better.
Yeah, it's super good for you. But that's actually why I go in there, because I don't really want to, but I know it feels so good. So it's like you have to. It's that thing where you tell yourself the truth, where it's like, getting in past the belly button and the boobs and the crotch, all that hurts, right? But once you're in, it feels amazing. And it's kind of, that's where you kind of speak to yourself. So even things like, I'll do things like essential oils, and honestly, getting adjusted, body work, yoga, you know, those kinds of things. I can't say enough about going to your chiropractor, having a massage, doing acupuncture, doing Reiki, working with any type of energy worker. Those things are amazing.
Crystals, rocks are helpful
Crystals,
too.
Yeah. And it's funny, but you know, I have like a million cards around, and I have drums, and I have singing bowls and all these kinds of things. And people are always surprised by that. I don't know why. I'm kind of granola and woo, but those things remind me who I am. And your list that reminds you who you are is going to be different, but the point is have a list.
Have a list. Yeah. And yeah, you added some great things there too. Even sometimes just feeling your feet on the floor and taking some deep breaths. If that's all you have. Cause I get that there's going to be people watching this that maybe you're like, yeah, that's nice if you have time to go to the water. Well, I have 2 little kids and I've been there. I get it. In those moments, it was like, walk away from them for 30 seconds to take some deep breaths, because the words in my head were not what I wanted to say to my sons. So whatever you can do, wherever you're at with your family life now and the demands on you, I guarantee there's something that will work for you.
And if you're not sure what that is, what a great thing to do as a journal prompt, you know, make yourself a cup of tea, find some place quiet, even if after everyone's gone to bed, if that's what you need to do, and remind
giving yourself permission. Right? Can we just talk for a second about how many women put themselves last on any kind of list? That whole martyrdom that like, you know, like, no, if you don't take care of yourself, you have nothing to give your children, your partner, your work. And I have a good friend who's in town this week that's just depleted. And I'm like, she's got a massive company, 2 kids, a massive home renovation happening right now. Plus like 3 other kind of like side hustles, like properties or Airbnb and stuff. I'm like, girl, like you got too much going on. Like you're one person. She's doing all these things. And of course she had to have a timeout, and we don't want you to go through a health challenge and have an adrenal fatigue and have all that stuff. So give yourself permission to take care of yourself. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And also, you know, when I do Reclaim Your Voice, and we walk through that program, it immediately goes into this concept of boundaries, because you can't really reclaim your voice and speak to your own truth if you're just leaking all over the place, and you don't have good, healthy boundaries with things around you. And you even spoke about that, you know, there's certain relationships that aren't for you. There's certain relationships that you're going to have to change the parameters, otherwise known as boundaries, you know, you just have to be clear with yourself why you're doing it, knowing your why, knowing why it's important. I mean, honestly, we could go on and on and on. I want to be respectful of people's time. I think you have to go back into practice or something.
I do. Yeah.
You do. So I just wanted to say, I felt like that was super, super helpful. Melissa, I know that you have lots more to share. Can you tell me the name? Can you tell me the name of your new podcast?
Okay. I will share it here. It gives me more accountability. It was supposed to happen in September. And like I said, I got a little distracted for the last few weeks. The newest podcast is called Work, Play, Hustle, Heal. And it's about, my goal is to help, you know, people work smarter, play more, embrace the hustle. And I know you and I differ on this word, but I love hustle, because I think hustle to me means consciously creating what you want when it's aligned with what you want. So I'm not saying hustle and get burnt out. I'm saying, if you know you want to have a badass relationship, then put in the time to have that relationship with your friend, with your partner, with your kids. If you want to, you know, a tight ass, then do some fucking squats. you're going to have to go to the gym. You might have to do some burpees. You're going to have to make it happen. So whatever it is for you, you want to work, you got to work for things. Nothing happens, we're not entitled to anything as far as I'm concerned. So I'm okay with hustle when it's done, when it's aligned with who you are and what you want to do. And then a heal is because I love health and health professionals. And it's my heart is to help doctors of all disciplines, help more people with doing what they love. So the show is going to be more about, there's some interviews, but my other show, Rockstar Doctor Life, is all conversations. There's a few monologues in there, but it's all conversations with, inspiring doctors. Laura was on the show last year. I think it was 2019, maybe beginning of 2019 or 2018. I can't
Something
remember.
like that.
There's been a lot of shows now, but yeah, this show is more designed for quicker, shorter sort of stories and monologues about, how you can harness your energy in one of those different dimensions of your life. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
I love it. I love it because really you just create something that resonates with you and then you just put it out into the world. And when it no longer resonates, you shift and do it again is exactly what we're talking about.
It might totally bomb. I don't know, but I'm going to have fun doing it. And I think that's probably a good way for us to maybe wrap things up. I mean, when you're following work and people and life that is aligned with you, everything, it's easy to do the shit that you don't want to do. It's not shit that I don't want to do, writing a podcast or creating it. It's exciting and fun to me. So if, my hope for people watching is that you find a way to do more of that and work with Laura or watch the videos and the comments. And I mean, your stuff is amazing. It's helped me a ton too. So you always tend to write something on Instagram or somewhere that I see something from you that hits me right when I need to hear it. And I know I'm not alone in sharing that sentiment. So thank you for what you're doing to inspire other people and share your story from the heart and your truth and your story. It's been inspiring. And something I've loved to be part of as well.
Thanks, Melissa. So kind. I'll listen to that later again too. Right, everybody. Thank you, Melissa. Have an incredible day. And for everybody who's watching live, thank you for being live. If you're watching this in replay, we love you just as much. Have an amazing day, Melissa.
And bye.
Bye-bye.